Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here on the wrong lead, and we are officially into whatever nonsense they call this derby part. I think they call it like the championship series or some garbage, but basically it's a second prep everywhere. We're gonna be starting with the fairgrounds this weekend. Caleb, this is your home turf. You never go to the fairgrounds, but I figured I'd put you in before Mark because let's face it, you're better looking than him. I don't know. I'm just gonna. But this is where it really starts, huh?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I agree with you. I always think I know there's technically Derby points races with the Jerome and the Withers and the Southwest and whatever, but in my mind, the first of the what is it, 50-point prep races? I guess this would be, or 60 points, whatever they're worth. Like the mile and 16th race typically, although Fairgrounds runs it at 9 furlongs. But yeah, the Risen Star is like the first of those, what essentially become winning your in races for the Derby. And it's kind of when the real Derby trail starts. It's when I start to get a feel for who might be legit and who might be a pretender. So it's always an exciting time.
And speaking of pretenders, Mr. Mark Kapitan, how are you doing?
Yeah. Of course, Caleb gives you the setup. How's it going?
You're just like so annoying. Oh man. Yeah, Mark. I've started to kind of realize a little bit, why you're just like not super into Derby season. And it's because the aqueduct preps are straight fucking garbage.
They are absolutely hot garbage. A complete dumpster fire. It is the worst thing ever. That is very accurate. Although I will mention, if you listened to the stream last weekend, you probably had a very good time playing all the preps that we did cover, because I think we had them pretty darn dead to rights. Not that we gave out any sort of monsters or any big pricey horses or anything, but okay, Steven, I will put you on mute again. You've been put on mute before for less. No, I mean the Naira preps they are what they are, right? Like there hasn't been a Derby winner coming out of any of the Naira preps since, I don't know, was it Drosselmeyer or something, or whatever. I don't know. It's been forever. The Derby in the Naira preps are a little soft, and aqueduct racing is not the best right now. So, yeah.
I mean, let's be fair. In the Wood last year, you had Mo Donegal in early voting. We didn't do anything in the Derby necessarily, but won the Preakness in Belmont. So, I mean, let's take it easy on the duct.
Uncle Sully asking if he missed any jockey trashing. He says they're wasting no time trashing aqueduct. Funny enough, on Drinking Champagne this week, we did cover my lack of movie knowledge, as well as the excuse me, aqueduct pick 5 tomorrow. So the early pick 5 has got a carryover, and the late pick 6 has got a carryover. The pick only pick 6. But the funny thing is,
wait, apparently, did you say the early pick 5 is the carryover?
Yes.
The early is the pick. Yeah,
because
it's not.
Yeah,
it's not actually a carry. Josh,
no, it is.
Explain.
No, so it is for the pick 5. The pick 6, however, they increase the takeout on the carryover. I do not believe they do it on the pick 5. I could be incorrect.
So it's still a carryover. It's just a carry with a different.
So the pick 6 for sure, the carryover gets added to the pool, but the new money gets taxed at 24% as opposed to 15%. According to Andy Serling, you get a discount when there's no carryover, is the way he danced around it. and yet he called Ed DeRosa the minister of disinformation.
Andy is not. Andy is nothing if not an epic shill. So, I love Andy. Love Andy. He's Andy in person is a very different human being than Andy on TV. But there's certain people who play a part long enough and they become the part. That's sort of happened to Andy. I mean, 20 years ago, Andy was a very different person than he is today because he's kind of become the persona that he's created. And then that's a sad thing.
I think he's fine. I mean, he's for entertainment purposes only. It's weird. But yeah, the early is a carryover for the pick 5, and then there's a carryover in the pick 6. And I'm sure someone has the like the link or whatever to the way that this works or whatever. But yeah,
have gotten you kicked out of chat. Just saying. I'm just letting Jay know that much less has gotten people kicked out of chat.
So we cover that in Drinking Champagne. I think it's an interesting sequence. I think it's kind of tough. I had like a $12 base all A ticket, but I had numerous Bs. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to play it. We'll see how scratches are. We'll see what the weather's like, how the track looks. But it's the early, Caleb. So you can get your ticket in nice and early, and
Good.
then get ready for Mardi Gras weekend. A weekend to forget.
Usually they are.
The gutters should be scared.
The gutter or the pool filled with beers or whatever he did last year for Mardi Gras. I think they were fishing for beers
fishing
on
for beer, yeah.
Wait, are there going to be crawfish boils? Because I'm all about it if there's I'm all about it if there's crawfish boils.
I've never had crawfish.
Buy some, but it's a little bit early in the season. They're still pretty small.
Okay. Okay.
Never had crawfish. What do they taste like, Caleb?
Like shrimp.
Like spicy shrimp.
Yeah.
They're good. If you can get past like the way they look, you can probably like them.
I mean, I don't mind the way like head-on shrimp looks, so I can't imagine it's much different.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
If you like spicy stuff.
I do, but so lately I've stopped taking certain medication, my like anti-heartburn medication that was like it was combating a different problem I had with my stomach, but on top of it, it combats heartburn. And I've been taking it for so long, like now it's just like I even look at something like I have a pour of bourbon here, and like every sip is like pain because it gets down and it's just like oh yeah, this is gonna hurt. But I guess it's getting old, man. Although Caleb, you and I have very similar health issues, and you're like a couple years younger.
A couple years younger than you. Yeah, maybe we're both getting old, man.
But and I'm sure Jay's in here like, oh, you guys don't know what's coming yet. So check out the Drinking Champagne if you guys want to hear Andrew Champagne and mine's thoughts on the early pick 5 carryover tomorrow. We did not cover the pick 6 because that increased takeout makes that really tough to play. But we got a nice pick 5 sequence, I think, here at Fairgrounds. I had a lot of fun handicapping this. This is a very, very interesting, I think, group of races. I think there's a lot of spots you can make strong opinions, and I have a feeling that we are not going to all have the same strong opinions in this sequence. Mark and I already disagreed in a couple of spots, I think, talking earlier. But it's fun. We got turf, we got dirt. We got derby points. We got horses that haven't run in 2 years. So you kind of got a little bit of everything here. But race 9 is going to start as the Colonel Power Stakes here, going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And you got a full field here. I think they only run 8, and then you got a couple of also eligibles, a lot of also eligibles, which I think really does. This is a really tough race to handicap early because I really think 1 or 2 scratches and a couple of horses getting in here and the complexion of this race changes completely. What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I do think we're extremely likely to get a couple of those scratches because there was a similar race held with a lot of these horses back January 21st. I don't know what the race's full name is, the DF Kenner, the $100,000 listed stakes. And that was supposed to be on the turf. And a number of these horses were entered pretty obviously just to run in the event that it comes off, which it did. So I would expect if it stays on the turf, which they're calling for rain tonight, but nothing after that until Saturday. So would kind of expect us to stay on the turf. I would expect a horse like Manny Wah and possibly Surveillance to end up scratching out of this field. So I think that does kind of open it up to some of those also eligibles that you were alluding to. And I completely agree. It's a very hard race to handicap ahead of time because if you look at just the main body of the field without getting into the also eligibles, there is really not any speed unless you think that an Agstrom or Angastron, whatever, Anguston. All right, I pulled a mark. Anguston. Unless you think that he's the same horse as he was 680 days ago, which I don't know if I do, because he was also in that race that got washed off, but he was a vet scratch, not an off the turf scratch. So that makes me like him even less on a spot like this off the big layoff. So yeah, there's not much speed, but I think that if you get some of these also eligible to scratch in, like the 10 or the 11, that really changes the complexity of the race.
Yeah, I love the 10. Like if the 10 gets in, I'm gonna be throwing all kinds of money at the 10. I think
That'd be my top pick too, for the record.
yeah. Mark, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I had a really, really hard time with this race, just given the fact of you have the 7 coming off the crazy layoff. The horses that are actually in the field, I honestly don't like any of them. I've never seen a 5.5 furlong turf race with this little speed drawn up. I have absolutely no idea what to do with this race. So I just, I really, really, really struggled with this race. I think Ice Chocolate, the Cassie horse on the rail, was probably my top choice, but I felt dirty picking that horse. The horse has never been shown to be that good. Sort of shows up when going versus cheaper company. And this is an okay field. I don't think there's any monsters in here, but this is a fairly solid company or a solid group. I think the horse I'm most interested in betting, if he can draw in and he needs a lot of help to do that, is the 13. But I don't have a real great reason to love the 13 besides, a Flo Cox horse that draws in, and it seems like the horse might still have some upside, after a couple starts, in the U.S. So, and with the cutbacks. So I don't really know. I had a really, really, really hard time with this race. I think there was a couple races and that were tough for me. This was definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think with the horses that did draw in, assuming none of the other horses draw in, I basically took the 3 inside horses in the spot. I know you like the 1. I'm really kind of just, the horse kind of started really improving at the end of the year, coming off a layoff here. That best race was on synthetic. So, I'm not entirely sure that that's going to kind of cross over here. But if you look even at the turf races, this horse has at least been close up, within 2 lengths of the leader. And, I still think that that's where you're going to want to be, especially going 5.5. You never want to be caught, super far behind there. The other horse that I was interested in was the 3, kind of just based off the, I often say class doesn't matter, but class doesn't matter until it does. And when you look at who this horse has been racing against, although not super great, was winning listed stakes. They tried, running in grade 2, grade 3s, and just not a graded stakes type horse, but is coming back into listed stakes company where this horse has had a lot of success, both on the dirt and turf, going 5.5. So I think the 3 makes a ton of sense here. I am a little concerned about the pace setup for this horse. If the last 2 races, this horse just got lost, way, way, way back in the field. So not going to be able to win that way, I think, going here at Fairgrounds. But the horse, assuming none of this other speed gets in, the horse I am most excited for in this race is the 2. Twirling Roses. You get Twirling Candy going 5.5 on the turf, which is exactly what this horse wants to do. You look back at that Ellis Park race. I know we're going back to July last year. That race looks pretty good in this spot here. Ran another race and seemed to kind of run into a little bit more trouble, got squeezed a little bit at Ellis Park again. And then they went to Kentucky Downs going 6.5, which is like going basically a mile and an eighth on a normal turf course. So wasn't able to find turf after that, and kind of ended up, just running on dirt and running well. I mean, those speed figures, at least on Brisnet, fit with the rest of this field. Coming back here, gets a jock upgrade, or I was looking at the Chris Amy races. Jareth has ridden this horse pretty well. So, I don't know. I think that this horse is going to fit in this spot really well. It is going to be a tougher company than it's faced, but I think that that's getting priced in. You're getting 15-1 in the book. You're getting Jareth Loveberry aboard, who's 20% on the meet, and I think that this is the right distance and the right surface for this horse. So I'm excited about this too.
So you're excited to bet the horse that's 0 for 9 on turf?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Just checking, making sure I understood what the logic was here. Excellent.
That's fine.
Okay.
Oh, this feels weird, but I kind of got to go with Mark on that one. The two, I don't know if this is the right surface for him. Yeah. But yeah, I guess, Josh and I were, kind of in lockstep with also eligibles, but we're quite a bit different in the main body of the field. But it's probably not so much anything to do with his picks. I couldn't really land on anybody that I felt strongly about. This is a really messy turf sprint that I couldn't really fall in love with anybody. I mean, a horse like the One probably seems like the likeliest winner, but that's probably going to be your favorite or second choice. And I just really get the impression this is a horse that's better going 6 or 6.5. I don't really know that this horse is going to be quite as good going 5.5 furlongs. The one time that, he tried something around this distance, earlier, about a year ago at Gulfstream, I mean, he found it too sharp for him. Now, granted, he was coming off a layoff there. Maybe you can excuse that effort, but I'm just not really convinced he's not better going a little bit further. And the Fairgrounds turf has been playing, the insides look pretty terrible with the turf conditions they've been dealing with. So I don't really want to take a short price on a horse that I think has a few things going against him. I really have no opinion on the number 3, All in Sync. His numbers look good. He does look like he maybe needs some help in front of him. He's going to be coming from pretty far off. So I actually kind of landed on 2 outsiders in here who I think are both going to be pretty good prices. It's actually to the immediate outside of all of Josh's horses. The number 4, Pyron, and the number 5, Yankee 7. Pyron's probably a little more likely because he's actually run races that would make him extremely competitive in this field. Granted, those were early in 2022, but it was at the Fairgrounds and it was at this configuration going this 5.5. So if you think that he can get back to those 2 turf sprints at Fairgrounds in late 21 and early part of 2022, then I think he could be a little bit sneaky in here. I'm willing to forgive him for the Churchill turf sprint because a lot of horses just did not handle that surface. And I can forgive him for the Kentucky Downs race where he actually went off the favorite there and just never picked up his feet. Once again, the Kentucky Downs, bit of a quirky surface, but you're getting some pretty high percentage connections here. Declan Carroll was on board for those good Fairgrounds races, so I like to see him get back up now for Al Stall. So he's one that I think could be a little bit sneaky here if he maybe has a bit of a horse for course thing going on. The other one I liked was the number 5, Yankee 7, and I'll probably admit this one's maybe a bit more of a reach, but I was just looking for a horse that could be somewhat forwardly placed, that wasn't coming off a 2-year layoff, and that wasn't 0 for 9 on the turf. And this was kind of the only horse I could find in the main body of the field that I thought would be somewhat near the lead, is relatively in form, and does handle turf. I don't know this horse is quite good enough, has done probably most of his damage against Louisiana breds. But some of those figures, on the earlier Fairgrounds turf sprints came back strong and would absolutely make him a player in this race if he can get back to some of those numbers. And I'm not really sure there's any reason to think that he can't, considering he's only tried turf once since that last Fairgrounds turf sprint, which would be good enough to win or at least get a piece of this. So the Yankee 7's a horse that I'm probably going to use if the also eligible speed horses don't scratch in. If they do, I might end up tossing him or downgrading him pretty heavy, but he's the other one I thought might be usable at a nice price.
Yeah. So Jay had asked about thoughts on 4 Pyron. So you and Jay are at lockstep there. I did see Ryan asked a good question. Well, first of all, Ryan said probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said to us in stream. Just he's never been happier than today to clock out and talk shop with y'all. So he must have had a really bad day at work if this is
If this
what
is
he's
his
been looking
highlight,
forward
yeah.
to. But he asks if this 10 draws in, what odds do you think we get going into the gate in this 10?
I mean, I think 4 or 5 to 1. I don't think he goes off short, really.
Yeah, he might take a. It depends who on the inside of him is are the horses that are scratching out. Definitely, but I think Caleb's probably right. 4 to 1, 5 to 1 range. That seems to feel about right. I like him. I wouldn't talk anybody off him. I just even if he does draw it, I still think well, yeah, he's a usable horse, but I still think there's others that are probably a little classier.
Yeah, I would say the 1 and 9 and potentially the 3 all end up going off shorter than the 10. And that assumes the 9 draws in. So yeah, I think 7 to 2 to 5 to 1, but probably in that 4 or 5 to 1 range is my guess.
You know what the nice thing is though? Is if that 9 does draw in, Flavian Pratt, baby, burning money like it's going out of style.
Do you think it works out of California?
I mean, I don't know.
I'm willing to.
I'll still bet against him.
I know that I've been chasing Evan Singh for like 4 races now, and he gives me a lot of money.
dude, he can go on a tear where he's winning at like a 50% clip, and I'm still going to be fading him. So, was there anything else you wanted to add to this race, Mark?
No, not anything else.
No. Yeah, I think it's a tough race. I like the inside horses, and I can't wait for this 2 to boom Caleb, so I can create another highlight video. But yeah, let's move on to race 10 here, the mine shaft. We're going mile and 16th here, grade 3. I believe this is a prep for the Fairgrounds. I think is the race for older horses during Louisiana Derby Day. And yeah, this was you got a couple of. I mean, you got a couple of washed up horses in this race. You got Tawny Port here, Farmington Road, Pioneer Medina, Mr. Wireless, the West Virginia Derby winner from a couple of years ago. You want what's funny is there was a horse today at Gulfstream Park named Mr. Cellular. And I was like, is this just like budget Mr. Wireless? And I think he ended up winning and just booming me because I did not use him. But yeah, this is a very, very interesting race. You got you got some back class in here. You got some I don't know. It's always interesting when you get these horses that are a couple years removed from running on the Derby Trail and just kind of have not really done much since then. Tawny Port, I mean, I think won the Ohio Derby, so has a little bit of a more recent win. But yeah, Mark, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I know we had Matt DeSantis on, what was it, a couple weeks back, and we had this conversation about picking horses not because
Low proof?
really. Yes, low proof.
Okay.
Picking horses not because you like them, but because you hate everybody else in the field, and that's really where I sort of ended up here. I don't love anyone in this field. I actually despise everybody in this field, and I ended up on Tawny Port and Pioneer Medina mainly because I just don't know where else to go. There has to be some horse here that's actually good, but I just keep looking at the form and can't find that horse. So I ended up on the 2 horses that seem like they're the classiest and have run the best speed figures, although neither one of them really like to win. And you have to come up with a million excuses. And I just wonder, is this a case where one of the 2 of them has finally run into a field soft enough where they can get that win? I'm not going to wax on too much longer. It's just, I ended up on those 2. I didn't feel like I needed anybody else. If I feel one of them is going to show up and run their race and be good enough to win.
Yeah, so I agree with Mark, with both the horses he came up with. I have nothing against them, and I think they're both horses that you probably want to use. Tawny Point's a little more of a head scratcher just don't know what happened in that Pennsylvania Derby. Just didn't run at all. I mean, probably was never supposed to win that race, but was certainly supposed to run better than that. But if you find a way to get over that race and then the Derby being kind of a throwout, I mean, this is a fine horse. He does kind of throw some clunkers in there, so perhaps that's just something to accept with him, is that he's not consistent. But it's not enough for me not to use the horse. And Pioneer of Medina, another horse who I think has actually improved in every start since taking that layoff, so he looks pretty good in here. The other horses I kind of gave a look to were the number 6, Happy American. This is a horse that just all of a sudden got, I don't want to say really good, but he got markedly better. Was laid up for about 7 or 8 months from March to November, and then came back and ran a good race at Churchill, just missing to a couple of the horses that are in today. And then ran 2 good races in his last 2 here at the Fairgrounds at this distance, including one last out where he closed into really slow fractions and did it pretty impressively to pass most of the field despite trying to close into a 25 opening quarter. So I think Happy American, for whatever reasons, loves Fairgrounds, figured something out at 5 years old, but is really sharp right now. So he's one I liked. The other one I used, Jay actually mentioned, is Hoist the Gold. I've been waiting for them to stretch this horse out for a long time, and I feel like we're finally getting the chance here. Now, there's no guarantees that we're actually going to see it because he's been entered like half a dozen times since that Malibu and just keeps scratching for whatever reason. But it feels like maybe this is a spot that they like enough to actually keep him in. And he's a horse that's probably been facing, you may not know it just looking at the class of his race. I mean, listed stakes and optional claimers. But if you look at who he's run into in some of those races, I mean, Taba, Gunite, Elite Power, Gunite. I mean, these are a lot of really good horses. Some of the best 3-year-olds in the division, and probably the best 4-year-olds now in the division, in their respective divisions. He's bred to go longer. I don't know if he's going to handle it, but I think like Mark said, in a race where you're kind of tired of the usual suspects, a long shot here looks pretty entertaining. So, well, not a long shot per se, but a new shooter looks pretty entertaining. So, Hoist the Gold's the other one. I agree with Jay.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with Tawny Port. I just feel like this horse is 4-1 in the book. This horse is going to be like 2-1. I mean, this horse is taking all the Brad Cox money. This horse is taking all the name money. And I just think from a value proposition, this is going to be a horse I'm going to try and get around. I mean, obviously he has the best figure in the field. I think, it can be, I mean, maybe it could be one of the better handicap horses we have, depending on how this, if we see progression from that 3-year-old season. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of have I think I'm gonna have a fade on this horse. We'll see. I haven't made up my mind yet, but this was a spot where I'm thinking of zagging and kind of doing the fade on there. I agree with you guys on Pioneer Medina. I think Pioneer Medina is probably is my top pick in this race. Is probably the most likely winner. I think Pioneer Medina is, tried to show a little bit more versatility from what we saw last year, where it was very much forwardly placed, very much a speed type horse. Has come from just off of it. And Harlan's Holiday was right on top of the pace. And I lost to, was it Skippy Longstockings, I believe, who's a nice little horse. Yeah, I mean, Luis Saez decides to ride this horse again, has given, 3 of the best rides that this horse has gotten. So, yeah, I think Pioneer Deer makes a ton of sense here. The other horse that I looked to was a horse that's definitely jumping up in class, and that's the 5 Big Blue Line. Horse ran at here January 14th and ran a really, really nice race, was the favorite there, sat just off the pace and ended up winning by 3.5 lengths, which isn't normally easy to do at Fairgrounds unless there's just like a huge speed bias and you're like on the front end. So I don't know. I think that last race, plus this horse had a very, very consistent work pattern. I think this horse is going to be coming in as good of a shape as possibly can. Obviously, has taken a liking to the surface here, seeing as ran his best race here. And I think you're gonna get a fair price here at 8-1. So I'm gonna be using Big Blue Line here. I'm gonna be using Pioneer Medina. We'll see about Tawny Port. I mean, the horse makes a ton of sense, but I just don't know if the horse is going to be too short. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of landed on those two horses and maybe a little bit of Tawny Port here.
So, did either of you two guys take any look at this 2-horse run classic? Gets a absolutely massive jock upgrade. It could potentially be the speed of the speed in this race. I would imagine Reliu has a lot of options. It seems like the horse has a lot of tactical speed. They just haven't necessarily always gone to the front, but they're very forwardly placed. And it seems like this is a trip that he does well at. It seems like he can get this mile on a 16th trip, going a little further. He doesn't seem to bring his best race. You have to draw a couple lines through it, but you're getting 10-1 on a horse that's a little bit, a somewhat lightly raced 5-year-old who may still have a little bit of upside. I don't know. I thought of an outsider, I thought the 2 was a little interesting.
I just love that this is like the first time I've seen Rick Wienkind here, type anything in chat, and he already just like fits in so well.
As soon as I saw
Where
that,
he just says, "Flow blows, no Tawny Port for me." I mean, we could probably wax poetic about
We dunk it on Flow now.
Flow, dude. I still think one of the funniest things I've ever seen at a racetrack was our friend Bobby going up to Brad Cox at Kentucky Downs and just asking him, "Look why do you keep riding Flow? We watch a ton of races and he's just not good. Why do you keep riding him?" And to Brad's credit, Brad sat there and listened to everything Bobby had to say and had a conversation with him. And he was like, "No," he's like, he's not really that bad. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But what was funny is, like, I don't know, like a month or two later, all of a sudden you notice that Flo wasn't on all of Brad's horses, and you're like, wait a second, did that conversation do something? But I don't know if it was just like a weird like scheduling thing where like he had other commitments. But it was pretty funny. It was just hilarious. I think we got a picture of it somewhere of him talking shit to Brad about Flo, but it was funny. I looked at this too. I tried to make a case for it. I kind of just thought the 5 was a better version of the 2, or at least is kind of rounding into form a little bit better than the 2. But I think the same like the same thing, same line of thinking that I have on the 5, I think does fit with the 2 as well.
Yeah, I don't really like either of his last 2 races. I feel like he's supposed to win both of those, and seems to have kind of regressed in each of his last couple off of that big number he ran at Churchill, which was maybe a little bit dressed up in hindsight. So yeah, not for me, but at 10-1, I think he could do a lot worse. I don't think he'll go off that long because he does appear to have a shot to be controlling speed in here. But if you do get 10-1, then I don't hate that.
Anything else you guys want to talk about here?
I mean, I'm going to have Mr. Wireless on a ticket somewhere just because I'll be damned if he beats me. But he's probably just not quite as good as a few of the others in here.
I don't know. I think that last race, he had no shot. There was no way he was going to win with the pace in front of him. I think that he tends to, at least kind of looking back through his form lines, he likes there to be a bit of a brisk pace, 47 and 4, 20, 24 flat at least. And they went 25 and 49 and 3 at Fairgrounds. Like, I just don't think he was ever winning that race. Now they did go a little bit quicker the race before, the Tenacious, and Happy American still won there, but
that's kind of my take. Is like I don't Happy American just seems like a better horse than Mr. Wireless at this point. It's hard for me to see him. He had the quicker pace, he had the slower pace, and in both instances, he just couldn't quite get it done. I mean, unless there's a big change in tactics, I kind of struggle to see him turning the tables on that rival.
The one thing I will say, I know you talked about a little weather, Caleb. If it does come up wet, Mr. Wireless is a very different conversation.
Yeah, that's very true.
Doesn't the wireless signal get worse, like when there's cloud cover and stuff like that?
Well, there are a
No,
lot of
only when
people in
you're
New
in a
Orleans too, so the cell tower is going to be kind of overwhelmed from Mardi Gras.
Oh man, race
Does that make
11.
him run better or worse though?
Who knows?
Okay.
Race 11, the Fairgrounds. So what is the what's the feature older dirt race on Louisiana Derby Day? I thought it was the Fairgrounds, but it's something else then, huh?
I was just trying to think of that. Is it just like the it's the something handicap, right? Is it the Louisiana handicap?
Maybe I forget what it is. Of course, we need a Louisiana version of Road Warrior who just knows all the stakes races and just can answer that. I'm sure I hear Caleb typing already, so he'll Google it and figure it
I'll
out.
find it.
But going a mile and an eighth on the turf here, and grade 3, and I landed, I believe, on just 2 horses in this spot. One of my least favorite horses ever, Pixelate, is in this race, and there's no way I'm using that horse. But actually, no, I'm getting Pixelate mixed up with a different horse. Who's that Brad Cox horse that like started like won a ton of races and then he was just complete garbage as a turf horse? I think he won this race actually. No, we'll figure it out. But yeah, I landed on the 2 inside horses at this race. Is there a Louisiana version of Channel Maker? Well, my friend, there is. I am glad you asked because the horse's name is 2 Emmys. 2 Emmys is the Louisiana version of Channel Maker. It wins like 1 race a year, and you just got to figure out where it is. Sometimes he might even boom you in a grade 1, apparently. But is it the Muniz Memorial?
It's the New Orleans Classic.
Oh, New Orleans Classic.
Yeah, the Muniz Memorial is
the turf race, yeah. Yeah, 2 Emmys. I think looking at this race, I did not see a ton of speed, and 2 Emmys is going to be drawn on the inside. So I think that 2 Emmys is going to get the lead, and seems to have run really really well at Fairgrounds. Likes Fairgrounds. This is one of the places I think where Mark and I were talking about how formful some of these races looked. Mark and I didn't agree, I think, on the races that looked formful, but I think that this is the race that looks formful to me. I think 2 Emmys is definitely got a huge shot in this race, and I would be remiss if I did not bet Tiz the Bomb in this spot. Staying here on turf. I thought after that Jeff Ruby Stakes that this was going to be, he was just going to tear it up on turf last year, and it just didn't really seem to happen for him. But gets another year, a little bit older, gets a little bit more condition in him. So I think that Tiz the Bomb, if he can run anything close to what he was running at 3 on synthetic, I think he's going to be in here with a pretty tough shot. I think the 2 is your most likely winner, is the chalk. I really, not being super creative here, I don't think. But Caleb, what did you think?
Yeah, so I halfway agree with you, Josh. I do think 2 Emmys probably merits respect in this race. For all the reasons you mentioned. He's even by English Channel, so I mean, how perfect is that? He's going to be controlling speed probably. And he likes to win. He likes this track. There's a lot to like about that horse, except for the price. That's kind of my main knock against him there. But second off the layoff, I mean, he has every right to improve, and take a step forward here. I didn't really like Tiz the Bomb. I don't think he's improved at all in a long time, and he really needs to take a big step forward that we just haven't seen to even get in the conversation to win this race. I actually would hit the takeout reducer buzzer on him in this spot. He won't be on any of my tickets. I do kind of agree with your general synopsis though, that this race does feel relatively formful. I don't think we're going to see a 30-1 popping up anywhere, because really after 2 Emmys, it's a very flat race. Without going into too much detail, I looked at the 4 Gentle Soul, the 6 Pixelate, and the 7 Corelli, all those horses that I would probably want to include. Maybe not quite as prominently as I will use two Emmys, but I think all of those horses do need to be used on my ticket. I don't have a super strong opinion in here, other than the fact that a horse like Tis the Bomb and Bay Street Money, I don't think I need as some of the shorter prices in this field. And if I'm going to spread deeper, I'm going to go for some of those longer prices, like a Corelli or a Pixelate.
It's fun. I ended up on two horses that neither one of you talked about yet, which is kind of interesting in here. First thing, I'll put a couple horses right in the winner's circle for you. Tis the Bomb has never run a race that's even within 20 time form fig points fast enough to win this race. He needs an absolute massive improvement, and I don't know why suddenly it happens here. Sometimes horses do improve from 3 to 4, but I just don't get it.
Now, Caleb, having heard that, does that make you more interested in Tis the Bomb?
It does, actually. He might become a B on my ticket now. If Mark would have said that as Tis the Bomb was coming out of the turn into the stretch, I would have just rushed to the window and bet all my money.
And quite honestly, I'm not the biggest two Emmys fan in here either. And it's just the fact that he's 7 years old now, and historically, if you look back the last 6 or 8 races, he hasn't really backed up his big performances with another big performance, right after it. And he put up a pretty big effort, off the long layoff in that whatever C. Bradley at Fairgrounds that he didn't win to Gentle Soul. So, if you're making the, argument that second off the layoff, he's going to improve for a very low percentage trainer on the meet so far, maybe. But, I just thought he's a horse that's going to be way over bet relative on his chances of winning. And I wanted to go other places. So I ended up on I think Caleb quickly mentioned the 8 Bay Street Money. I thought Bay Street Money made a lot of sense in here. A horse that seems to kind of be rounding into form after moving in, or improving in form after moving into the Maker Barn. Last 3 efforts have all been, slightly better every time out, and seems to be a horse that, I realize is a 6-year-old, but it seems to be kind of figuring things out. Never been a win machine much of his career, but most of the horses in here aren't really win machines. And the other horse I thought was a little interesting was the 5 English Tavern, a horse that does like to get his photo taken on, on some occasions. Another English Channel that's in here, and I think there's gonna be a fair bit of pace on the front end. Actually, I think both the 1 and the 2 have shown that they arguably want to be forwardly placed, and I think there could be a fair bit of pace pressure. I also think the 3 Cavalry Charge could, really want to press the pace a little bit early. So I think it sets up somebody like the 5 a fair bit as well. So I realized that I picked closers at Fairgrounds, which is not noted for turf closers, but I did what I did.
Caleb, I think
I care more that you said Tis the Bomb's going to go forwardly placed.
Caleb, I think I'd be remiss if we didn't at least talk about this stream we did last year, where both you and I landed on Cavalry Charge, and he won at 35-1.
Was that last year?
It was last year.
I remember. I just knew that was last year. I tried, I have a soft spot for Cavalry Charge, and I think I've bet him in the last 5 races he's run. but yeah, he hasn't seemed to just been able to back that effort up. Maybe getting back to the Fairgrounds, who knows?
Well, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just say I agree with you, Caleb. I mean, Tis the Bomb has never been forwardly placed, or has never been a horse that they put on the lead, but there's not a lot of pace in this race at all. Right. So yeah, he probably doesn't go to the lead, but is he more forwardly placed than he normally is? I would think so. And just a kind of a paceless affair.
Yeah. I mean, he's also the only horse that's won a race that Modern Games has been in here in America. So just saying.
I guess since we are doing pretty good on time, I'll touch on one of the horses that I liked a little bit, which was Corelli. And this horse sort of owes me, I won't say it owes me money. He's actually cost me money, I would say, from a couple of his wins. But this is a horse that I was just adamantly against in his last start at Gulfstream. Jonathan Thomas is terrible off of 180 layoffs. He's 1 for 30 or something. So really bad. He's very, very good second off those kind of layoffs. I think it was extremely obvious. I mean, to me anyway, that was a prep race. He was being given that start. And despite a very slow pace up front, Corelli showed he still has talent and, put in a nice late kick. I don't know about the distance. I do wonder if he might want to go a little bit further. He does have some wins, at a mile and a 16th if you go back far enough. But he's one that I think is going to get kind of ignored. I know you got to deal with Florent Drew, which is not ideal, and he's probably going to be a deep closer in a race where I don't see a ton of pace. But I definitely think he's probably, the class of the field, looking at who he's been running against for most of his career. And I think, second off the layoff, if he steps forward, he could be, a sneaky player that gets kind of overlooked. But I think we've covered basically every horse in this field, right?
Basically.
I mean, nobody really liked Cavalry Charge, I guess. So congratulations to Cavalry Charge.
How about or Pixelate?
No, so I got Pixelate confused with Set Piece for some reason.
How did you confuse?
I don't know. Pixelate sounds like a Brad Cox horse, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Was there another Brad Cox horse, a dirt horse that started with a P?
A dirt horse?
Yeah,
I'm sure there has been.
I literally opened up his top horses, and I was like going back between.
There's a turf horse that I'm thinking of that I always mix up with Pixelate, but I can't think of. It's
What is it?
What's that horse's name?
Isn't there a P. Pletcher horse that's the turf?
Hendy Woods. That's who I'm thinking of.
Hendy Woods.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude. I needed Hendy Woods for a boatload Derby day 2 years ago, and he fucking ran second at like a really, really, really big price. That was tough. I gave up. I'm done looking at.
That's just a horse that you always think is going to be something, and then just always lets you down. Yeah. That's what Pixelate is to me.
So Channel Maker. So he is Channel Maker. Okay.
Channel Maker has had a great career. He doesn't need to do anything else.
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything else. I don't think you need to worry about that.
I mean, he's probably going to cost me at least another $10 at some point.
You're going to wait until it's a bog and you're going to bet him again, aren't you?
I absolutely. If he shows up at Belmont at the Man of War and it's raining, maybe I'll bet $20. Maybe I'll put $20 on him. Race 12 here, the Rachel Alexandra Stakes here. I looked at this race and I saw Hoosier Philly was in it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then I saw Chop Chop and a couple other horses in here. And Mark and I talked really briefly, and I think I'm gonna land on maybe the longest price on the board in this race.
Is it the 6?
Yeah, side.
I also like that 6. So there's no way you get that price.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, but we do have 3 cherries here. I just did not see any speed in this race. I'm gonna take the speed horse in this race. I definitely needs to, I think, improve on Figs, but not really, at least on Brisnet, not really that needs to make up that much more compared to Hoosier Philly and Chop Chop.
She, on time form, has her last races faster than Hoosier Philly.
Really?
By 2
Well,
points.
yeah, we're definitely not getting that price then.
No.
On Brisnet, the horse looks a little bit slower, right? I mean, within reason, I think, right? With just with a small jump forward, which she might have with A, the humongous jock upgrade, and B, the fact that she's just going to be alone on the lead. So, I'm super interested in the 6. This is single A. I'm going to fade the 2 short prices. Hoosier Philly, I like better than Chop Chop. Chop Chop is just I don't know. It's just a hanger at this point. I think like she's gonna have to show me something until I put any money on her. And Hoosier Philly, I mean, you can't really knock her too much. But these types of layoffs, especially going first race as a 3-year-old, these are notorious money burning opportunities where these horses come in, having raced really well at 2, come in at 3 first time, especially for fillies, these early 3-year-old races, these horses get bet down, and I feel like there's always an opportunity here. So soft fade on these, or hard fade on the 2 and the 4, and I'm going to single the 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say our good friend of the show, Stephen Fox, who was in chat earlier. He always talks about these types of races where you have these monsters at 2, and they just never take a step forward into 3, and how these are inherently bet against angles. I really like Hoosier Philly. I think she's a cool horse. She's been kind of just one for fun in hand. Her first 3 starts, and I think she's going to be a really interesting Kentucky Oaks horse. She very well could win here, and she could absolutely win in a laugher, and she could also very well show up here and really have a tough going. I agree with Josh. I think Chop Chop is sort of shown that she's got a case of the hangs at this point. She's been supposed to win a couple of races where she just couldn't quite get it done. And I would imagine that morning line odd on Miracle the 6 is an absolute joke. I would imagine you're going to get probably more 4-1 range on a horse that it should be controlling speed in here. I would imagine that's the that's the angle. I'd imagine Johnny V is going to send and go to the front with her, and it seems like Johnny V's here to bride her. Like that seems like that is the reason to be here. I would imagine they're trying to do the Oaks points game, and that's why they're going to the Rachel Alexandra with her, where Todd's shipping out of his backyard, where I'm sure she's been training down at Gulfstream. So I really like Miracle in the spot as well. Interesting race. And again, with Miracle, you also have that same argument of she's been off quite a while. So who takes that big step forward from 2 to 3?
She's been off quite a while, but she's been off quite a while at a much better price. I think it's taking a short price is where you start getting into trouble. Lloyd coming from the time machine here, saying that he remembers back in the day Risen Star was coming into Detroit Race Course, which doesn't exist anymore, for the $1 million Michigan Mile. They weighted him with a lot over the other horses and still cleaned everybody's clock. The only race course left in Michigan, I think, is Northville, right? Northville Downs, the harness track. There used to be a couple, right? Was Hazel Park in Michigan? Mark?
Oh, I have no idea. Sorry, I just got nosed out at Delta. So
That's a shame. I am live in the pick 4 here at Turfway. I need the 2, 9, or 11.
Nice.
So I would very much like the 9. The 2 is actually really short compared to his current odds. He's taking a little bit of money now, but the 2's only paying 3, or what's half of 3? 3 like 190 for a buck, and he is like third choice. So it's kind of a flat race though. Interesting. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so I guess I'll be the one that says I don't like Miracle at all in this race. I get it, lone speed, sure, but it was just not very good. I mean, losing against New York breds over and over, only has a maiden win to her name. It was a sprint, again against New York breds, and it just doesn't seem to be good enough, and I know, but the time form fig. Well, the time form fig is trash. That fig is not legitimate. Laban Tom came back.
It was a key race.
I don't care what it was. Laban Tom came back to that race to won, and regressed 14 points on time form. The third place horse, Silver Skillet, came back to win after getting beat 13 and a half lengths, won the next race, and still regressed 2 points on time form. Like pretty much every horse to come out of there, including those that have improved and won races, had major regression. These Aqueduct figs are always sketchy. I just don't think it's a reliable figure moving forward. So I'm going to choose to I'm going to choose to believe the actual results and not so much the figure for that kind of a race. So I just don't think Miracle's quite this good. She may be controlling speed, but I just don't think she's it's going to matter. I do really respect Hoosier Philly. This horse has done basically nothing wrong. Is done literally nothing wrong. Won by daylight in all 3 starts, going 2 turns, a graded stakes. The only question for me with Hoosier Philly has been off since November and only shows 3 published works on the work tab, coming into a grade 2 here. That makes me nervous. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe there's more works at a private facility that I'm not keen to. I try not to get too wrapped up in that kind of stuff, But Tom Amoss is usually a guy that works his horses, at the tracks. So I don't know what's really going on there, but fitness is definitely a question for me with a horse like Hoosier Philly, who is going to be a very short price. So for kind of all those reasons, I landed up on an outsider here. Chop Chop can't win. So I landed on number 1, Vava. This was a horse that I really liked in the Untappable, which is kind of the local prep for this race, and just had a terrible stumble at the start, even worse than what the comment might indicate. I mean, this horse pretty much lost all chance at the break, but still showed a lot of dedication and determination to fight on. First time against winners, first time going 2 turns, coming out with a terrible break like that to pass all but 2 in that field. Pretty Mischievous is obviously a pretty respectable horse, 3 wins out of 4 starts, who's in this race. And then the place horse in that race, like Thin Like Alice or Thin Alice Like, whatever the horse's name is, that's the Brad Cox horse that actually beat Chop Chop in the Silver Bullet Day back in January. So I think that Vava could be a little bit sneaky here. I think this is the horse that Luis Saez came to ride, even though he has a couple other mounts. And I think this horse is just really well meant. I think Cherie DeVoe believes in this horse, and I think she might have a nice one on her hands.
Sorry, I'm watching my 2 just fold up like a cheap suit here, and me get boomed here.
Yeah, I had that 2, 6, 8, 9 is what I had in this race, but I don't have anything live.
So your 8 just booms me. You son of a bitch.
Yeah, I should have been smart enough to use that 2 in the last Delta.
Stupid. Tough, man. Horse racing's tough.
Yeah, I get a little aggressive to the 1, and it hurt me.
So Hoosier Philly just wins this race for fun, and we just...
Oh, yeah.
Chop Chop actually comes back on the inside after getting bashed. We rallies and just puts us all to shame. To be fair to Chop Chop, got a horrible ride last out by Flo. To be fair to us, Flo was still on the mount, so...
He just didn't listen. Race 13. Big race, the Risen Star. Be going 1 mile and 1/8 here on the dirt. Derby points on the line. Presented by Lamarck Lincoln and Lamarck Crescent City Ford. Buy your Ford. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, they're really sponsored by that, but I don't know. Is that where you bought your car, Caleb?
No.
It's just like so quick. Yeah, this is you got a full field of 14 here. Your morning line favorite is going to be the 13 Victory Formation for Brad Cox, but gets Flavian Pratt aboard, which might be the only jockey I hate even more than Florent Giroux. So, I don't think I can bet this horse at 3-1 in a 14 horse field, but I mean, sure, everything makes sense. Caleb already knows who I picked. So, Caleb, I will let you go first, and then you can also do the handicapping for me.
Well, Josh, you went with the number 10, Larry Ravelli, Patricia's Hope, 2 fills. Am I right?
That's a big old A right there.
I figured Josh would have gone with the 13, gone to the cheap speed. I mean, it's a Cox horse, but Oh,
Josh was not going to pass Ravelli.
Pratt. Okay. So there's a Ravelli. Got
especially
it.
for Flavian Pratt. This is probably one of the best Risen Stars I can remember.
This is a really good race. Yeah.
I don't necessarily mean from this field is loaded with Derby contenders, but I have no idea who's going to win this race. I was 5 deep and I didn't have the favorite, the 13, anywhere on my ticket. And I don't feel like I'm being too cute on that. I just think there's a lot of horses in here that look extremely similar, and that 13 is just kind of just a horse. Why would I want him at 3-1? I mean, undefeated horses always take too much money, and Pratt has been extremely cold out west, and I'm not really convinced that's going to turn around. I don't know why Saez eventually got off this horse. I don't know why this horse isn't running in the Rebel as opposed to running here. There's a lot of things I don't know about this horse. But what I do know is that from the 13 post, going, this distance with other speed in the race at 3-1, I don't like Victory Formation. What I do like is 5 other horses. Without talking about any of them in depth, I do like Josh's horse, 2 fills, but I'll let him ramble on about his love affair with that horse.
Wax poetic.
Yes. Other horses that kind of liked, probably in no particular order, the 2, the 6, the 8, and the 9. So giving in 30 seconds or less, Number 2 is 30 to 1. I don't think he should be though. That last race, my gut feeling was, where did that come from? That race came back fast on Brisnet and Time Form. I tried to figure out what would cause that to happen, and it looks like they added blinkers. And I don't know if that was necessarily the catalyst or if maybe the horses just took a step forward. But that last race was very good. I know it's dicey going May last stop maiden breaker against Stakes Company, but 30 to 1, we've seen DeSormo do this in the past. Last year with Call Me Midnight. I think this horse is extremely sneaky. Number 6, Angel Empire, Saez, Cox, the other Cox actually, Saez. A horse lost to Victory Formation last time out, but he gets a huge jockey upgrade here, whereas the other horse probably gets stuck with William Pratt. So I think that really could make the difference there. Number 8, Tappett's Conquest, the other Brad Cox horse. I mean, when the guy wins 43%, it's hard to throw any of his horses out too much, but this is probably the one that's the most traditional kind of Brad Cox horse. I think he looks fine in here. I don't love him, but he's a contender. His figures come back fast. And then number 9 is probably the other one besides the 2 who I'm most interested in. Ran a good race last time out. Doesn't necessarily strike me as one that wants to route, but seems to just be good at it. So, did come off of a nice second place last out to Instant Coffee, who came back and won a race here, I think back in January. He won the Lecomte, I believe it was. So, that was a slow pace. He did kind of okay to, put in a good late rally. And he did have some traffic trouble. He didn't get clear for a while. Probably was never beating Instant Coffee, but I do think that his race was probably a better race than it appeared given some of that traffic. So he's kind of the other one that I looked at in here.
Yeah, when I capped this race, I think I ended up with 11 horses I thought that could win on paper. I quite honestly think, was I cutting you off or something, Josh?
That's like defensive D's.
I was going to talk about 2 of them.
Okay.
I was looking to talk about 2. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You sure? Okay. I think Caleb actually already mentioned one of them. So the 2 horses I was most interested in here were the 5 and the 6, Harlowcap and Angel of Empire. Harlowcap, the clearly not being currently trained by Bob Baffert horse. That is now in the Asmussen barn. Johnny V comes in for the mount. I thought that last performance was pretty solid. Maiden breaker out first winners, but I'm getting 8-1 on a horse that's a Baffert that seems to have quite a lot of talent. So I thought Harlowcap was pretty interesting, and Angel of Empire, the other Cox in here. Is a horse that it looked like Saez had some choice in here. He'd been on a couple of these before, and I'm sort of surprised he ends up on the 6. So, I would imagine this horse is very well meant, bit of an every other type, and this is the every. So, Louis with up for Cox has, the 2 of them have had really good chemistry historically, and I think this, I don't really know what the pace complexion looks like. I would imagine Victory Formations go into the front, but when this kind of these big fields, I would imagine there's going to be a pretty solid pace on. So somebody like Angel of Empire who's coming from out of it, and I trust Louis to read pace. So I thought Angel of Empire made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Jay here loves the 5 Harlowcap out of the Baffert barn already. So the connections must think they have something. Baffert can't earn points, so hey, maybe get these points early, and go ahead and train up to the Derby. Who knows?
Well, the thing is that if they win this race, they don't have to run again. They can basically win this race and point directly for the Derby. So,
yeah. So my top pick in this race is the 10 Two Phils. I mean, what else can I say besides Larry Ravelli, Jareth Loveberry? Just 2 peas in the pod. But no, in all seriousness, I really, really like this horse coming out of the Street Sense. And, one of the concerns I thought going into the Lecomte was, does this horse need the slop? Was that just a freak on a slop? Or, does this horse have something? And I think no one was beating Instant Coffee that day. And ran a really nice second place there. And, was clear by 5 lengths from anybody else. So, was clearly second best. So, really interested to see what happens here with Two Phils here. Has stayed here at Fairgrounds, been worked just an absolute bullet next time out. So yeah, I really like two fills here. I think that this horse, I think this horse definitely got a shot here, top pick. The 13 I looked at, I just, I don't know. I can't take. I had the same questions that you did, Caleb. Like this horse was Keeneland, Churchill, Oak Lawn, won the Smarty Jones. Why didn't he run in the Rebel? Right, clearly ran well at Oak Lawn. Coming over here, do they think this is going to be a softer spot than the Rebel? Are they dodging the Baffert horses? Like I don't know, but I don't know. That last race just wasn't all that impressive. At least not on Brisnet. I don't know how Timeform or DRF look at it, but horse regressed pretty big on the stretch out, which makes no sense, seeing as out of a Belmont winner and Smart Strike on the bottom. So, but
They gave the horse a 108, so within a point or two of the top in the field on the last
Okay.
race.
Interesting. Yeah, Brisnet's got it way slower. But the one horse that Tappett's Conquest, I'm with you, Mark. I think of the Brad Cox horses, this is the one I prefer. This is, well, I don't know who the hell Horse Greeley is, but on the bottom there. But definitely, is a Tappet. It's gonna want to route, probably gonna get better with distance. Brought this horse along pretty measured, at Saratoga, then went to Churchill, right, which are two of the biggest places, the biggest purses, and where you see the best 2-year-old maidens, especially late in the year. And then immediately came back to run second in an optional claimer. It ran a pretty good second. So this was one I was a little bit interested in, getting that extra half furlong. Just missed last time out, coming up the rail. So I thought maybe a little bit of added distance might be good for this horse. Maybe you see a little bit of improvement with added distance. So, this horse kind of just, I was interested to see how this horse was going to progress. Maybe this isn't the spot. Maybe this is, a horse that we see running in some nice 3-year-old allowance races later on, or grade 3 type races. But I definitely think this horse got a shot. Nice mid price, 6-1. It's the Brad Cox horse I like the most. But a bomb I kind of like in this spot is the 12 Croupi. Now I know what you're going to say, Caleb. This horse ran really well at Aqueduct. If they run well at Aqueduct, they don't run well anywhere else.
Exactly.
But I don't know, man. That figure is so big on Brisnet. That is just like, if the pace gets really, really funky up front, this horse, at least on Brisnet, has got a humongous late pace figure. If it's got that type of late kick, I think here, if we get a fast pace up front, this might be the horse that kind of starts picking off people, coming down the lane. If not, I think this is a very interesting underneath type horse in second and third in like an exacta trifecta. But it's a Rapoli horse. Todd Pletcher. Why are they shipping it here? I have no idea. Are they just trying to fill up the van? Who knows? But I don't know. I thought the 12 was pretty interesting in this spot.
You know where else to be interesting? In one of the maiden races on the undercard.
Oh no! Did I just bet Command Performance again?
You did.
Damn it!
You did. And by the way, Josh, you picked the wrong Cox horse. I was on the other Cox.
Oh, you were on
horse.
was it the 5?
I was on the 6.
Oh, the 6. I know. The 6, not the 8. My bad.
I was on both. I briefly touched on both.
Okay.
So yeah,
And I was going to say, your 8, I think you'll see your 8 when they decide to cut that horse back to 7 furlongs, which is what that horse probably really wants to do. That pedigree is not. I realize
it's weird, right?
I realize it's Tappet on the top, but that whole bottom half says sprint. So I would imagine that horse ends up being like a 7 furlong type. It's always
weird, right? Like
there are always the California Chromes of the world that just do weird stuff that they're not supposed to be able to do. But my gut says that's probably a horse that wants to shorten up.
Now the weird thing is, apparently this is a really productive dam. Conquest Little Miss, 5 starters, 4 winners. and it's got a solid DPI index on Brisnut. So the horses produce some nice horses. I'm not familiar at all with Horse Greeley. Caleb, are you?
He had a whole 6
Not
starts.
really.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a Mr. Greeley, which I would tend to
Yeah.
think it's probably
A
a
sprinter,
turf
right?
miler, probably.
Yeah.
It looks like Horse is a half to Salvatore Mundi, who's a decent turf router out west, or kind of all over the place. I think he's out west now. And then a few other kind of average horses. I mean, some route, nothing stand out there.
Salvatore
It's
Moody was like an allowance, like an allowance horse, right?
I think like allowance or, maybe placed in grade
G3
3 or
G3
something.
type, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember betting that horse a few times because Rispoli always had them out.
I will say, Caleb, I think you touched a little bit on Curly Jack. I was interested. I didn't want to take like 7 horses in this race, and I felt like if I started including horses like Curly Jack, that I could make a case for a lot of them. But I don't know, something about the horses kind of jumped out at me. Ran a really nice race at the Iroquois, but you kind of look back and like, who did he really beat? Ran in the juvenile and got his face kicked in, running against the best of the 2-year-olds. But like you said, I mean, ran that nice second to Instant Coffee, which is kind of similar to what I said with the 10, right? Like Instant Coffee, I think is a really really solid horse, and probably makes the gate if assuming that they continue on the Derby path. So I don't think that there's any shame finishing second to that horse. So
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, the 8 and not the 8, I'm sorry, the 9 and the 10 are very similar horses in my mind, and I'll treat them equally.
Yeah, I would agree that I have them kind of marked down as those C type horses that maybe they have some upside, but they're definitely usable in the spot.
dude, what the fuck is Steve doing with this 14?
What?
Why is this 14 in this race?
Private Creed? Oh, I don't know.
No, that screams that the owners got a little got a little Derby fever, and they want to take their shot and see if they actually have a horse that's talented, and that's what that
do they realize that the Derby is run like the Saratoga Derby?
No, I
The Belmont Derby? Or is that what they want to run in? Like, I don't think it's a Kentucky Derby. They do know that they run the Kentucky Derby on the brown stuff, not the green stuff, right?
And they don't run it at 5.5 furlongs either.
Yeah. I mean, I think Private Creed's a nice horse, but it's a terrible spot for him. It's a terrible draw for him. Yeah, there's a lot of other pace in the race. Like, this is not the time. I mean, if he wins this race, he is clearly much, much the best.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, Mike says prepping for synth. So congratulations to the Jeff Ruby Stakes winner, Private Creed. There's a horse I think running at Turfway. It's a Dale Romans horse that everyone's like, yeah, that's the horse that's going to be. The Jeff Ruby Stakes winner already. I actually don't hate that that's like a path into the Derby now. I think that they have no shot, but at the same time, I think very often horses that win these second preps also have no shot. So why not, right?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me any.
Was there anything else you want to talk about in this race, Caleb? I know you had like 20 million horses.
No, I mean, I think we've touched on other ones. The only one I really wanted to talk about in some level of detail was that 2, because I think he's going to be, every bit of 30 to 1, honestly. So I'm excited to maybe catch him with a price. I'll have him keyed everywhere. Vertical bets underneath the tries, because if I can just be right about him and then, spread across the logicals elsewhere, I still think it pays. So yeah, he's the only one I really wanted to touch on here. But yeah, very, very tough Risen Star. One of the tougher, more wide open races I can remember.
Yeah, my gut kind of capping this race is that, I've sort of said this about the other preps. I don't think we've seen that Derby horse. I haven't seen that monster that I want to see. I go, oh, that's the horse I want to bet in the Derby. I have a feeling that horse might come out of here. This race looks like there are some very talented horses in it, and one of those could show up and be a major player. So I'm excited to watch this one.
You sure you haven't seen the Derby winner yet?
I don't think I've seen that performance, which makes me go,
What about that horse from Oak Lawn?
What is it,
That has
Arabian
0
Night
derby
or Arabian
points.
Lion? I get them
No,
confused.
the not a
The
Baffert
Baffert.
Baffert.
Yeah. That was a pretty impressive win. No.
I mean, okay, like he did what he was supposed to do, and that's what he was supposed to do on paper. I don't know. I think a lot of the Bafferts seem to be paper tigers. They are horses that
Lion.
or paper lion. Is
Yeah, it
paper
was
lion?
Arabian Lion, not Arabian Tiger.
Okay. So they're paper lions then, where I don't know. They throw up these massive figs, and then all of a sudden they get tested and they fold like a cheap suit. So, yeah, we'll see.
What do you think, Caleb? You think we've seen a Derby winner yet?
I think we've seen him, but I don't think we necessarily. I don't know that it's one people are thinking of. I mean, I'm not saying I know because I don't. But if he hasn't raced yet, I doubt that we have a Justify going on right. Even Justify already raced in his maiden at this point. So yeah, I mean, I would tend to think that we've seen our Derby winner run at some point. Now, is it one of the prep winners? I don't know that I would say that. Maybe it's an also ran. Maybe it's a horse that has raced twice. Maybe has only run an allowance company so far. I mean, that's kind of my gut feeling. Is it's probably one of those horses that fall in the all other 3-year-olds kind of buckets, but has probably raced already at this point. I just don't know who that would be.
Maybe it's a horse that ran in the Holy Bull.
We all know it's not a horse in the Holy Bull.
Hey, I just need one of them to make it to the gate. That's it. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. You guys playing the carryover tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
In unison. I wish I had that screenshot of Caleb saying, "Never let me skip a pick 5 again."
Especially a carryover.
Especially
I think it's
a
pinned in
carryover.
the chat somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be a fun little sequence. Like I said, we touched on it in Drinking Champagne here on the YouTube channel, or on you can check it out at on any of your podcast apps.
Just a little quick plug. I was on the Chase Sessoms, the Wolf of Oaklawn pod. I think it came out yesterday, talking the Oaklawn Friday sequence. I had a couple spot plays. So again, any place you find your podcast, take a look at that one. We we're doing a little kind of bankroll builder kind of thing. Hey, $100. How would you spend it on the Oaklawn Friday card for best ROI? So fun little sequence, and very, very tough Oaklawn sequence, but some fun plays. So,
Caleb, what do you got going on this week?
Mardi Gras, probably.
Nice.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna fire that Aqueduct pick 5 for sure. I did look at the featured races on Horse Tourneys tomorrow. It looks like about half of them are Santa Anita, and I've been doing really well there lately, especially from a contest perspective. So I might jump in a couple of the contests tomorrow, especially since I'm probably going to be out and about for part of the day. So it'll make it easier to sort of fire and forget. Saturday probably won't do anything. I mean, since I have the late pick 5 at Fairgrounds handicapped, I'll probably fire, when I'm a couple of hurricanes in downtown New Orleans. But don't think I'll be probably playing too much this weekend. Sort of taking a bit of a step back, and then probably going to hit it hard here starting next week.
Yeah, next week is Rebel already.
Yes.
crazy.
When aren't you going to Oak Lawn, Caleb?
Yeah, me and Pops are going to Oak Lawn March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So I've already been in contact with Chase a little bit. We're going to try to meet up. But if anyone else happens to be at Hot Springs that first weekend in March, get a hold of me. Unfortunately, we couldn't get tickets to one of the good days, good quote unquote days. Like Rebel in Arkansas sold out really far in advance. But yeah, so we'll be able to at least see Oak Lawn in person. It'll be a first for me. It's still waiting to be a first for Mark, but yeah, it's exciting.
Ouch.
Did you even go to the casino, Mark, or no?
I did not. We never even made it that far. Because apparently you can't be inside the casino and see the racetrack. The only way you can see the racetrack from inside the casino is if you're in the sports book and you get them to put the racetrack on the televisions, which is not a normal thing for them. It's peak casino. So no, I did not even make it to the casino. I was talking with Chase as well about that. Might try to make it down there, but I'll probably be down. It would be Arky Derby more than likely if I make it down. Count Fleet Arky Derby that weekend.
Count Fleet, isn't it? They don't call
Or
it
is
that
it
anymore,
the-
right?
Not the Whitmore now, right?
It's a Whitmore.
I'm sorry, the Whitmore. Okay, be down there for the Whitmore.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we're what 3 weeks away from our Vegas spectacular.
Vegas, baby.
So we'll figure that out. We'll be doing a live stream from somebody's hotel room. Maybe somewhat sober. Hopefully, at least one of us spikes an HGC that day. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's going to do it for us. Like I said, check us out on Drank and Champagne, on thewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Yeah, I believe someone asked about possibly getting a bigger coffee mug. I am going to look into that right now. I think there is a bigger coffee mug. I just didn't put it on there. So I will, I'll activate those products. And yeah, we'll catch you guys later. Have a great weekend. Let's make some money.
Thank you.